Oh my god.
Oh, that's great.
Now
Okay,
recording.
Freddy Fazbear.
Kinda hot, actually. Wait, his voice? I guess we're
Me,
still
no.
recording. Yeah, Craig, I have my eye on you. We could create an original character out of Craig. I guess I'll start. Welcome everyone to the second episode of the Blorbo Club. I have a guest today, a very, very special guest who agreed to join me on the pod. It's his first time, I think. Welcome, Edward. Hello,
Please, please.
Edward.
The N word is my father's name. Call me N.
Hello, and how are you? How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you. How about yourself?
hmm What time is it over there, by the way?
Oh, it's currently 4 p.m. Um, so it's a pretty massive difference from what time it is for you, I believe.
Yes, here in the Philippines, just for everyone's knowledge, it's 7 a.m. I literally got out of bed because there were people arguing on the street outside, and then I had to gauge whether like they could hear or you guys could hear them on the mic. So I think they're still going at it, but if you can't hear them, then that's fine. I don't know what they're arguing about, but my god. Anyway, we are gonna talk about your original characters, and
Oh my goodness.
yeah, how many original characters do you have? You said you have like a list.
Um, don't have a hard list per se. It's honestly hard to count how many I've made over the years. Some are kicking, some are, have kind of fizzled out into the ether, but they still exist in some form or one or another. So
Hmm,
to say the least, I have quite a few.
I see, I see. Oh, by the way, like, have you been doing like anything creative like lately? Like you've been writing or
Well, lately I have been planning out a little bit of my own. I've been world building a little bit in my own fictional world. I don't have any plans for
ooh,
it in particular. Uh,
mm-hmm.
beyond a little personal story, but I've been making characters for that every now and then when I have the time. That's been a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. What world did you say this is like Devo? Is it like steampunky?
It is more of a. I wouldn't go far as a steampunk. I'd say it's.
Let me also think of like a kind of similar vibe. Do you know Neopets? The
Well,
world of
I
Neopets.
certainly do know Neopets. Yeah, maybe not the world so much, but
Oh, I was to say, was it like Moltara?
Multara. That's the name of the Neopets world.
Yes. Where have you been? Have you not been to Neopia?
I never really grew up with Neopets, unfortunately. I know a lot of people who did, but I I never really jumped on the Neopets train.
Ah, shame. Like Moltara's kind of like the volcano world. So lots of like cogs, machines, steam,
Hmm.
lava.
Oh, so pretty steampunky with a little bit of a lava accent. Interesting.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. Is that like the world you were building?
No, I would compare my world more to a bit of a desolate planet that's currently in the process or having just been recently finished, both repopulating and terraforming. It's more of a science fantasy sort of setting.
So it's like Krillodor, also from Neopets. The moon. That's the name of their moon.
I,
Yeah,
I'll take your word for it because I don't know what it's like.
you can check it out. I don't know, like whenever like I'm trying to like envision a world, like my base is like Neopets, like all the different biomes. Is it on Croc Island? I don't know. My brain is altered by Neopets. Anyway, um, let's go back in time for a bit. Let's learn about your very first original character, like the very first you remember. Who are they?
My very first original character. I know I was in elementary school at the time. I can't recall how old exactly I was, but I was very young. I didn't know what original characters were. I don't think I'd ever heard the term until I was maybe in my tweens, but
Hmm.
I was a fan of a comic called Calvin and Hobbes, and a lot of the
Mm.
jokes would fly over my head because I was just kind of a young dumb kid. But I fixated on the character of Hobbes in it, which is Calvin's stuffed tiger toy who has come to life,
Mm.
and I had my own Hobbes basically. He was
Oh.
a little black bear toy that I would bring around, and I would write comics about him and my friends together. So he really would be my first original character, even if he was basically just Hobbes from Calvin and Hobbes.
Oh, that's so cute. It's not like I know like some people's first characters like the anime boy with the silver streak and the red hair.
Oh, I had those
There.
too.
Oh, but this actual first one, oh, that's adorable.
Yeah, I really had to think back a bit, and it's interesting to think that I've been doing this for so long, just creating little characters just to have fun with like that.
Mm. Did they have a name?
His name was also Hobbs. It wasn't very
Oh, his
creative.
name was also Hobbs. Oh my god, amazing. Do you still have like preserved like drawings of them? Do you have any saved?
Unfortunately, no. If I did, I wouldn't know where they are. They're probably lost a long time ago, which makes me sad to think about because I would like to take a look at those, even if they're probably a little embarrassing.
Maybe we can do a revival of Hobbs.
I
Mhm.
was thinking about it a little bit. He'd have to be completely different now. I wouldn't want to just, you know, copy Bill Watterson again, but we'll see. It could be a fun idea.
You can't be accused of plagiarism if you are a child, but you can be
you,
accused of plagiarism now.
you have a point. Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so we have Hobbs. Do you remember like your next one? Not it doesn't have to be exactly the next one, but like what's the next like most memorable one?
The most memorable character of mine after that, it's definitely not the next one per se, but let's see, how old must I have been? I must have been maybe like 11, 12, maybe 10. I was a big fan of the Kirby games as
Oh.
a kid. And I remember having joined or I stumbled upon a RP group, an RP forum online, and I saw people with all these cool, edgy characters, and I quite enjoyed a bit of edgy characters myself. Big Sephiroth fan, big
Oh, okay.
fan of gosh, Full Metal Alchemist 2003, and there was a lot of edge in that. So
Classic, classic.
I made I made a Kirby character named Darkness, who was
Darkness.
just a black Kirby with bat wings and a sword. He's effectively Meta Knight from Kirby, but edgier.
Oh, did Meta Knight already exist then?
Meta Knight already existed. Yes, he existed
Oh,
since maybe the second or third game, I believe. But he certainly was a thing by then.
oh. Yes, and I'm remembering the meme like inside use two wolves, like normal Kirby and Darkness Kirby, the evil Kirby, the alternate ego Kirby. Did he have like what is this dark? So his name's darkness or like darkness?
Darkness, like the
The word
concept of
darkness.
the word darkness, yeah.
Oh, I
Very,
thought
very
it was
creative.
like I thought it was like separated, like dark surname ness, darkness.
No, no, no.
Ah,
Just straight darkness. That was his gimmick too, I believe. He was an entity made of pure darkness. So he had no, real name. He just went by what he was.
aw. But it's also so if darkness looked kind of just like Kirby, but like with bat wings and a different coloring, they're still kind of a little guy.
Yeah.
They're just still
It
a
just
little guy, just making little guys.
part of what
Oh,
made him a little funny to look at as a character. I mean, just conceptually having this, brooding, edgy character be this small little round fellow. It's funny to think about in retrospect.
and when you role played on this forum, like what other were these also original characters or were they like characters from fiction that existed?
They were most certainly all original characters. I believe it
Mm.
was a Nintendo inspired forum, so most of the other characters were also characters created from based off of Nintendo properties. I believe it was mostly Super Mario characters like Koopas and etc. But I know there were a handful of other Kirby OCs similar to mine.
Was there like a evil Peach character? Of I hopefully there was. I'd be surprised if there wasn't like an evil
I,
princess.
I don't recall. I
No.
I only remember there certainly were a handful of other edgelord characters like my own. That sort of character was popular at the time, I guess, for
Mm.
obvious reasons considering the times.
Do you remember the name? Because like maybe one of our listeners may have been a role player too in the past in that
Oh,
form.
jeez. Unfortunately, I don't at all remember. It's just been far too long.
I see. Unfortunate, unfortunate. But if one of our listeners remember a dark Kirby named Darkness, here is end the name behind the character. Maybe they
Yeah,
might
fine.
recall. Maybe they've
Until
role played with
after.
you before. Awesome. Who's next in the timeline of memorable original characters, memorable blorbos, as we refer to them?
Hmm. So let's see. After that time, there's a bit of a period between things, but I know no, I similar a similar time, not too far along after that, I joined a different forum. It was more based around Sonic OCs,
Hmm.
and the character I made that time was another edge lord. He was
Ooh.
Abyss the Fox.
He sounds hot. Abyss.
He was also a
Hey.
small little
Oh,
guy, right?
I mean, what what did Abyss look like?
Best way to describe it would be a recoloring of Tails, but
Oh,
black fur, and like red muzzle, red eyes, very
red
kind of
eyes? It's like
leaning to that
creepypasta.
edge. Yeah,
Ooh, actually, I don't like
yeah,
Abyss.
kinda,
Never
huh?
mind. Mm-mm, mm-mm. No, actually, Abyss, get away from me. Get away from me. You're not a bad boy. You are a monster who
He's a little
terrifies
freak.
me. What? No.
I
So,
don't remember.
hmm?
I don't remember too many details about him in particular because a lot of my character concepts have in some ways or another stuck around over the years. He's not one of them. He was left in the past, and I think for good reason. But I, much how I mentioned Full Metal Alchemist 2003 earlier, he was also heavily inspired by that. I
Hmm.
believe the character Wrath from that anime was heavy inspiration. Raph having been
Mm,
this wrathful child character, and for some reason,
that's cute.
I really enjoyed that. So,
Like angry children, angry little guys.
yeah, something
I
about that.
see.
Maybe I was acting out as a young kid.
Yeah, don't we all? So it's like I'm seeing like it's like a departure from cute little Hobbs, like bear Hobbs, to edgy characters. We're seeing a story here. Wow, Abyss. How long did you roleplay Abyss? Was it like for very long, or was it just kind of fell to the wayside?
He kind of fell to the wayside. That group, maybe it lasted for about a year, maybe a little
Mm,
less. A lot of
I
the
see.
people in that group, I remember there was plenty of like interpersonal drama, and it kind of just fell apart eventually. I do
Unfortunate.
know, coming from that or coming after that, a lot of my characters stopped being as edgy.
Mhm.
I
Completely.
still kept the edge with me. I never lost it, but it as the times carried on, my characters began to grow a little bit more complex, I suppose.
Mm, like like who? Maybe know the next character.
The next character was, or one of the next characters at the very least, was a sad boy. He was another Sonic inspired character, another fox actually. This his name was Despero, name inspired by the Tale of Despero storybook.
Espero.
He,
Mhm.
he was a psychic fox who had like some horrible little backstory for him that I can't fully detail. I remember writing
Mhm.
it in, I think it was in eighth grade. Yeah, it was in eighth grade that I made this character, and I remember for a literature class, we were supposed to write like a short story, and I wrote out
Mhm.
his backstory for my class, and the teacher had to pull me aside afterwards and ask if I was doing okay because it was
Oh
very
no.
it was very miserable.
Oh. Oh my god. So you
That
had
poor
to
little guy.
how did you explain it to her? Like, were you like actually doing fine at that time?
Oh yeah, yeah. I
Okay.
distinctly recall sitting in class and the teacher comes up to me, asks if I'm okay. I just look at her like, "Yeah, I'm okay. Why?"
Oh. Oh, Despero. What did
he was
Despero look like?
he was just born to suffer. Despero was a purple fox
Hmm.
who, let's see, I know he very simple design. He had like a black shirt with silver pants and blue shoes.
As long as he doesn't have red eyes, not like Abyss.
He did not have red eyes. In fact, he had completely black, pure black eyes.
Completely, please.
That, that sounds creepy, I know, but
Yes.
I there's no creepy reasoning behind it. Are you familiar with the character 2D from Gorillaz, the band?
I've seen art. Yes. Yeah.
That was entirely the basis for why he looked like that, which I believe
Oh.
it was. It's nothing like, oh, he gouged his eyes out. He has no eyes. It's like a medical condition that the character he had. So I just copied that.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay. 2D ghouls. It's not that scary, but still creeps me out.
A little creepy, I suppose. Yeah, but ultimately, it's just I believe I was also fixated on gorillas at the time, specifically
Mm. Yeah,
Clint
the
Eastwood.
gorillas phase.
Yeah, that's a phase that's never really stopped.
Ah, I see. I see. Like when
So,
characters
yeah.
have like all red eyes and like elements of horror, just like this is just a personal thing. But if like when characters have no face,
Mhm.
or oh, this is not really related. original characters, but like in horror, like when they have no face or fully black eyes, fully red eyes, I'm like, oh, I don't want that. It's scary.
That's the sort of horror that really gets to you, huh?
Yeah, mm-mm. Like no, actually get them away from me. Abyss. I'm locking Abyss in a cage. Sorry, Abyss. Never, never get near me. So we had Despero. Um,
Despero, I have quite a few fond memories of, actually.
oh, hmm,
He-
really
So when
like
I was, hmm.
like memorable like role playing events in the forum. I know that's a thing.
Oh yeah, not in the forum. By that time, this was after I was done with those forums. At the time, I was role playing. Do you remember MSN?
Yes, yes, I
Yeah, which
do actually.
that should tell you how old this was. I was role playing on MSN
Mm-mm.
with friends that I forgot how I met them, but these friends of mine, they were all sprite artists. Which I don't know if you know what a sprite artist is, but
Mm.
a sprite artist is basically you take a character sprite from a video game. Like at the time, it was a Game Boy Advance game, so since we were all editing Sonic characters into our characters, we would take the character sprites from the Sonic Advance games, and we would take those and edit them into our OCs effectively.
Oh, that's
And
so
the friends
cool.
I had at that time, it still is. It's what kind of kickstarted my interest into pixel art in general. But
Mm.
my friends all at that time, not all, but a lot of them role played, and not only role played, but did little sprite comics with their characters,
Mm.
oftentimes based around the little RP sessions that we all had together. Or, one friend in particular who she's still making sprite comics to this day, actually, which honestly impresses the hell out of me. She is she was just making her own stories in the first place, and she's where a lot of my favorite memories come writing with. Despero in
Mm.
particular interacted with quite a few of her characters and was even in sprite comics as not a main character, but a semi-important side character, I believe.
Let's see. Do you have these comics still?
I don't, but I know how to find them.
Oh, I'd love to see them like whenever you get the get the chance to find them.
Yeah, sure. They're very ancient history, but I'd be more than happy to share them with you.
God, MSN, and it's so sad. Did MSN like ever save like archive their stuff, or are all like the chat histories just gone?
Oh, geez, that's a good question. If they did, I don't think they would save them for this long.
Because like I remember, well, I didn't role play on like this chat app, but I think it was Yahoo Messenger in the Philippines. Like that was the big thing here. Uh,
Hmm.
I'm not sure, like MySpace, Yahoo Messenger, Friendster, through the besties who used Friendster before. Like those were like the places to talk to people besides MySpace. I've never had MySpace though. Oh, that it would have been so fun role playing on Yahoo Messenger. Mm,
That honestly would be a lot of fun too. Oh man,
you should bring that
there were
back.
quite a,
Discord doesn't have the same vibe.
it it really doesn't. There are ways to RP on Discord that's fun, but it's a very very different feeling, really.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Yes, bro. Then are we approaching like so you were like in probably high school or eighth grade for Despero?
Eighth grade, yeah. So just before high school,
Mm-hmm. Did
I
you
have a
make
pretty
any like did you make any original characters in like high school, entering the high school years?
more than certainly I did. Um, I believe around that time I started to make characters less outright. inspired by very certain media, but more just my own things, I suppose.
Mm.
Um, well, I can't say that. All my characters have been inspired by the media that I enjoy or
Mm.
the characters I like. Less, I should say, dependent on specific concepts like, oh, this is a Sonic inspired OC. It doesn't really have anything to do with Sonic. They're very clearly, a Sonic based character. So I kind of start gravitated away from that as I reach high school.
I see. I see.
The
Who is
character,
your next character?
the character who, the character who I made after that. There's a good handful of characters. There was a good handful of characters I made during the time, but the most important character for me would have been Mao. Her name is Mao.
Mao. I think I've heard of Mao.
I think I've spoken a little bit about her to you before. She
Mm.
is originally she was a furry, just a generic furry character. I believe she was a dog
Mm-hmm.
who an aspect of her that's remained kind of since her initial conception is that she's a fighter, she's always enjoyed fighting. She is kind of cool, stoic. She's very not edgy. Not edgy. I have to stress she's not
Okay.
edgy.
She's the more like the bubbly, like, outgoing, friendly one.
She's not that either.
Okay, she's not that either. What is she?
She's the cool and collected type of
Oh,
character,
cool. Like, okay, okay, okay,
Yeah. Not not an edge lord, not a sad boy, but just kind of the cool guy.
okay. Oh, okay. Did you role play Mao anywhere?
So, unfortunately, I really, at the time, I did not. It took a while for me to get the chance to roleplay her. She was a character that I kind of just had in my head for the longest time, and is she's not when I first started attempting to world build, but she's when I started to world build in earnest. Well, in earnest, I say, but she is sort of just the focal point where I made a world based around this one character, and other characters started to spring up over time around her. But unfortunately, I really didn't get the chance to role play as her for not for the longest time. At the time, I still was role playing, of course, but I wasn't. She was not a character I was just able to bring into any of the settings where I was currently role playing at. Unfortunately.
You mentioning like you didn't get the chance to role play Mao for the longest time. I think with role playing, yeah, with like role playing original characters. Like I've been on like those Tumblr groups with all the characters, and you could also role play original characters in there. I think there were times I've thought of making my own and then role playing them, but I guess what hindered me back then was like, isn't there like I feel there's like a prerequisite, like, oh, you have to make like good icon art of these characters, like good reaction images. And like I think back then, like I didn't really know how to draw yet. And like I couldn't afford to commission art of them, like little
Hmm.
like the 100 by 100 icons like some
Hmm.
people on Tumblr use. I think for me that was a yeah, I felt it was like a prerequisite, but I saw other people they used art of like actual existing fictional characters and use it as like a face claim. We all
Face
know that term.
claims.
Face
Yeah.
claims, yeah. So like do you remember like from your time role playing, like people who did that? Like they've used face claims for their original
Oh,
characters.
oh, plenty of people. Uh, most people who had original actors, I believe, were using face claims of some sort, and honestly, I respect it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
there's they really want to play as their character, but having your own art. unless you can draw, you're confident putting your art out there. It's not easy. I myself, I never really felt too comfortable using a face claim for my characters. In
Mhm.
in my head, they always had such a strong visual identity that I couldn't. It was hard for me to compare them to other characters, and if I use the icons of a character who was completely different, it just wouldn't feel right to me. But that isn't to say that I think it was bad that people did that. If anything, it was smart. If you could get a
Mm.
character who you thought looked like your own character and use them, then hey, more power to you.
Yeah. I think I was the type to like not stalk, but I worked around Tumblr roleplay groups, like not just like the huge ones. They're like like smaller groups here and there. I think I stumbled upon one that was like an it had a premise of being like idol K-pop idol stuff. So
Hmm.
it was original characters, but they used the faces of actual K-pop idols back then, and then just
Oh,
gave them
that's
different names. So like,
huh.
how do you feel about that?
I don't know how to feel about that one, considering those are actual people.
Yeah, I think there are some groups that exist on Twitter because like K-pop is a big thing here in the Philippines. I think people. Oh, there's the thing. I don't know. I'm kind of getting into like original character making in the Philippines, or like what I've observed. But there are people who like they make their own characters. They make them like Filipino, but they use the face of a K-pop person. And then they're like, oh, like they look like this. They study in this university. Like all of you who know that you know what I'm talking about. Like I think they headcanon real people, like actual K-pop idols. Like oh, like this dude from BTS. I think he'd go to like one of the big four because like it's like it's weird. Like they make headcanons for like certain K-pop idols. They go to this university. It's like what can I say? How can I translate this into like an American thing? Like hmm, give me
Hmm.
who's a fucking oh this is so weird. It can't be translated into the American experience. Give me a name of like an actor you like.
An actor I like. Okay. Um, I'm drawing blanks right now because I'm put on the spot.
Oh,
Nicholas Cage. Nicholas Cage.
Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage. Okay, if you were a big fan of Nicolas Cage, like I guess their mindset is like they make him a face claim of a character. Let's call him
Mhm.
Michael or something. Michael. They make him a
Michael.
original character, name him Michael, and then he's like, oh, like his face is like he's so hot. I think he'd go to like um Harvard, and then it's like stuff like because I don't know, like school is kind of a big marker of identity here, so they make the characters and then identify them with certain universities. So yeah, it's like that. And when I think of it that way, like using face claims of real people, it's odd. I don't know.
It's interesting to me because just as a concept, these characters that they're making are very grounded in reality. I notice, like
Hmm.
they went to this school and they look like this actor, and there's it's not there's a lot of not a lot of creativity there. It's really based in reality as opposed to anything fantastical. Like all of my OCs that I mentioned, none of them have been based in any sort of reality, like ours, anyways, in their own reality.
Mm,
Sure. Not at all this reality. So that's very interesting
yeah.
to me.
Yeah, I think it's also discriminatory. I'm sorry, because like I didn't go to any of the big four here, and then they say, like, oh, like this character only they they only went to the big four. I'm like, okay, like can they be like one of us or something? Why does it always have to be the big four?
It's kind
I'm
of
annoyed.
elitist in a way.
Yeah, so it's like it's kind of a way. Maybe they go to that university and they want their K-pop idols to be from there.
Maybe
It's
they want
weird.
their
So
K-pop idol to be the biggest and best idol, better than the rest, better than yours.
yeah, better than yours. And also they're like my batchmate, so I'm better than you. It's so odd. And
Mhm.
I think I've seen those Twitter accounts of, using the face claim of the K-pop idols, and then because there's this mall I go to. It's kind of fancy mall. I work around the area. So when I see like Twitter roleplay accounts of K-pop idols with like a picture of like I know exactly where that is, and like they post they make like a role play post like open post, I'm here in so and so cafe.
Oh my
it's kind of
god.
it's kind of goofy. It's like you're role playing me in the mall drinking coffee in the place I'm in. Like,
It's
okay.
a again, it's very grounded into reality. That's so strange to me, but I mean, they must get a kick out of it.
maybe maybe there's a certain like I'm only just guessing. Maybe they live far away. They do not have access to this place actually, and they're like playing into that fantasy. Like, oh, what if I went to this fancy cafe as a
Like a bit of
K-pop idol?
performance, yeah.
Is are they really original characters then? If it's just like that.
In a
Uh,
sense, hmm, I would say yes, but because a self-insert character can still be an original character. It's just,
uh-huh,
oh,
uh-huh.
maybe lacking points on originality. But the idea is still there, and I think if they really wanted to, they could, probably extrapolate and create something a bit less derivative of actual people if they wanted to, you know.
Yeah, yeah. It's like just you're gonna make your face claim a K-pop idol. Don't give it. You're giving him the most Filipino name. You're telling me, uh, RM from BTS is named Enrico. He's not. Does he look like an Enrico to you? Or is he like? Is he like Juan? Does he look
Hey,
like a
hey,
Juan?
hey! No offense to the Enricos and Juans out there. You guys,
Yeah.
there's some very handsome Enrico and Juans out there.
Yes. Yes. I'm sure you all look like K-pop idols too. Hmm. It's so I don't know. That's a whole other thing, like role playing. I guess there's a role playing culture in the Philippines, like the Wattpad girlies dipping their toes into role play.
Is
Mm.
Wattpad? I think Wattpad is used quite a bit, even like in America. But is Wattpad the go-to way to role play and create OCs in the Philippines?
I think so. Yeah, the girlies write the stories and publish it. I've never really read one, but I had classmates in high school who were super
It's
into she's dating the gangster. So,
mm, it's more like a
uh,
fan fiction, then, huh?
yeah, it's like a lot of cringe, like mafia romances there. Um, I think there was like there's one Wattpad, like they're making business on it because it's a full blown TV show now.
Oh my
They
gosh.
also there's like this weird thing. I'm drawing a blank on the name, but the original characters. They're like rich. They go to this rich school. Then for some reason the guy is into the mafia. We have a mafia in the Philippines. For some reason there's a mafia, and then there's a bit of copyright because I think when the heroine and the dude get together, they have their nicknames are characters from Yu Yu Hakusho for some reason. Those are their nicknames. Where I'm like, huh? Like I don't get it.
That's incredible.
I know, and I think it's like on Netflix now, so I want to know where that came from. Like, is there
What?
like a copyright thing? Like you're instead of like the normal oh honey or like oh my baby, you call each other Taguro? You call her Taguro? Really?
What the hell? That's incredible to me.
It's a girl, and I think the guy's called Sensui or something. Yeah, it's it's odd. Like those, like props to them. Like they made bank on their original characters. It's
Yeah,
on
they made it.
Netflix now. So maybe the key to making bank on our characters is to make them as cringe as possible.
You know what? Maybe there's something found there.
Oh my god,
Be cringe, be
Filipino.
free, as they say.
Yeah. Do you know or do you remember your most, or who would you say is your most cringe character made?
I've already spoken about a few of them.
Oh, really? No, I don't think they are. Like in terms of design, like a bit, slightly. No shade in that.
No, please feel
Uh,
free to shade. These the two that I mentioned very early on, this and Abyss especially, are certainly, in my opinion, kind of cringe just looking back. Just because they're so of the times, and
mm-hmm.
back then Final Fantasy VII was the big thing, and so a lot of people were making their own Sephiroths and like edgy characters,
Mm-hmm.
violent edgy characters who were like tortured souls who there was a lot of that back then.
Oh,
And
oh.
thinking about those two in particular, they always remind me of that time in particular.
Mm,
Darkness has, at the very least, kind of evolved over the years into something different. Still, what he is now is still, a brooding and dark character, but he's very much less so just Sephiroth as Kirby now.
Sephiroth as oh, I never thought I'd hear those words. Sephiroth as Kirby.
Well, you
Amazing.
can get that now in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Oh, oh my god, amazing.
Uh, and Abyss, especially too, is also just very emblematic of a twisted evil character from back in the day. It's embarrassing to look back at them, but it's endearing as well.
It's fun. It's
Uh,
endearing. Yeah.
if I were to ever make such characters again, they certainly wouldn't be so simple. I'd at
Mm.
least put more thought into them.
But for like Mao and the other characters moving forward, would you say like from Mao to the present, like the characters you've made are more fleshed out?
More fleshed out and more grounded, I think. Well, grounded, I say loosely because they're fantasy characters, but I've tried to make them more, fleshed out as human beings. They're not
Mm.
just like, the embodiments of so and so, they're people. They have, their own histories, their own traumas, their own fears, their own, joys.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fun process to make characters like that, think about all these things that they like, and all the things that are messed up about them, or all the little things that make them happy. Character building in that aspect has always been an entertaining one for me. I'm not the I wouldn't at all say I'm the best at it, because really it's just it's just a hobby at the end of the day, and it's not like I do anything professionally with a lot of my characters, but it's just fun.
Yeah. I also want to ask you a bit about like the design process. Like, do you tend to like build characters like visually first, like as like I do, or do you go for their like stories first?
I traditionally tend to go for their stories first. Designing
Mm-hmm.
characters visually is actually it can be a little bit difficult for me at times, unless I have a very strong idea, then I'll start with that. But oftentimes I go with the character's backstory in mind first. Oftentimes maybe inspired by an idea from a character or a show that I've seen recently. and I think, hey, I kind of want a little bit of that, and
Mm.
I just, I get thinking, and I don't copy things one for one naturally, but if there's ever an idea I see that I think is interesting and I want to explore, I'll snatch that and I will go from there.
Mm. Do you ever like ask yourself about like silly questions about your character? Because, like, for example, I think when I'm like missing my original characters, I think of like silly head, quote unquote, head canons for them. So, like, for example, I think for my characters, Rose and Andrew, like at work when I stop by, like, and again, like another cafe, I think like, oh, what kind of cake flavor would they like? It doesn't really contribute to the story at all, but it's like it's fun to think about like what they would like, what
Hmm.
kind of like silly like fun facts like that, because I think that's how I build my characters. So it's more on like I start with the visuals first, and then like the goofy like irrelevant parts, because I think that gives them more personality outside the world building.
I
So,
mean, if
mm,
if you ask me, that's part of world building too, really.
uh,
Um maybe not, so much the world as it is the characters themselves, but I do that as well, Um if I'm thinking about a character at the time and maybe I'm out doing something, I'll think about, oh, would they like this? Would they, enjoy this sort of food? It's whenever they pop into my head, I'll often reflect on them a little bit, and it's a fun process to do. With Rose and Andrew, you have a little bit of extra incentive there because as a couple, you can imagine them doing the things together, and I can imagine that can be quite cute.
yeah, they pick out cake flavors, and then maybe Rose might be allergic to random cake flavor matcha because I had matcha cake yesterday.
Are
What
you
if she's
allergic to
allergic to
matcha?
matcha? Oh no, no, maybe Rose is though.
Ah,
So that remains. We're done giving your characters allergies.
I mean
Like,
that's part of the character process, like a famous example would be giving your character a peanut allergy and
okay,
them suffering from eating peanuts. I It's not
yeah,
a famous
and
example actually, but that's a example, I guess.
yeah, it's like if you yourself have a peanut allergy, you could give your Blorbo peanut allergy too. So it's fine. I think there was a point, like, I think I got sick like a few months ago, and I was thinking I want to make Rose. Like, I think because like I was really stressed from work, the reaction it was giving was like my eyes were swollen all the time for some reason. Like my eyelids were, it's like I was bitten by a bee,
Oh,
and I don't know. I don't know why really. Besides the stress, like that's the only reason I could think of. But I think I was thinking of drawing Rose with like swollen eyelids, like she was bitten by a bee.
oh my god.
I'm gonna make her suffer. So good thing that stopped. I don't know, like I think like the next reaction I'm having is like I get rashes all over my face. So
Ooh,
um it's weird.
Rose,
I
you're up.
think Rose, get ready. You're gonna itch a lot. I'm sorry, girl. I'm sorry, girl. I'm giving you all my medical conditions. You have PCOS now too. So I'm giving her all my conditions. You have PCOS, you have rashes on your face, your eyelids are swollen.
Our characters are built for suffering, ultimately.
They are. Truly, truly. Yes. How about your
Hmm.
do you have like a latest Blorbo you can share with us?
Now, Blorbo, to be clear, you mean not an original character of mine, but a character that I'm fixated on, right?
It could be both, actually.
It could be. Hmm.
Let's start, I guess, like your latest original character.
Okay. So recently, I've been thinking about that world I mentioned earlier, that kind of science fiction world on a desolate
Mm-hmm.
planet. I've been thinking about a character from that setting recently, who I made as kind of the focal points of that era.
Mm-hmm.
His name is Doctor Shu Fuchan. He's a scientist. He's a revolutionary roboticist who's created the most human-like androids to exist
Mm-hmm.
in all of humanity thus far, anyways, giving them near perfect what he's created, artificial souls. So they are practically human beings in and of themselves. The process isn't
Mm-hmm.
perfect, so there's various issues like emotionally they aren't very mature. They have very stunted emotions, which it's something that he wanted to work out and fix. But the project was very quickly taken over by the military to use them as tools of war, much to his horror. He's a very, as a result, cynical man. He's a very jaded person as a result. And having been burdened with creating, artificial life only to doom it to this use as to this life of being used as weapons, he's fallen into a bit of a depression. But in it, he's been creating and has created what is effectively the a way to atone for his past mistakes. A new android, his daughter, that is the perfected product of what he was trying to work on, at the cost of embezzling government funds. But you know,
Wow. You can't be
sacrifices
a
must be
mad scientist without embezzling some funds.
made. No, no, not at all. What else is the
Yeah.
government good for, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, like, is he? Weird question. Is he single?
He is happily single. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Uh-huh. Is he a bad
After
boy, would you say? Can he yearn?
I like to imagine in the past he was a bit of a yearner. His his lab partner who worked on him with the project, he was someone he grew up with and he had some strong feelings for, but feeling like he was betrayed after the project took a turn for the worse. He's since then somewhat shut himself off socially. Part of his story would be his general opening up back to, not society but to people, learning to
Love again.
learning to learn yes, learning to love again, learning
Ah,
to trust humanity again, essentially.
I think someone can show him how. How old would you say he is?
Oh, I'm
Not like it
speculating.
matters, you know. Um, does he have gray hair? Does he
he
have a
has he
beard?
has some gray hairs. I want to say, I don't have a hard number, but I want to say he's close to his 40s.
Let's go. Let's go. Yes.
And I'm sure
Old
I'm
men,
sure
old
you'll
men.
like this. He's
Oh,
he's very well built. If um
oh,
if you looked at him wearing his lab coat, he wouldn't seem too impressive. He takes it off. He's got muscle down there. He's very physically
down there. Oh,
not down all.
uh, oh, we
Oh,
got
there,
down there.
Buckaroo.
Ooh, I'm interested. Oh my god, he has that
Dr.
super
Fu
build.
is he's a man who he has studied humans his whole life, and not just humans but also the human body, and in the
Ah,
process he's trained his own body, so he's in very good physical condition, minus a minus an arm. He has a bionic arm replacement that he himself actually
let's
had created.
go. Oh my god. What that arm
But he's
do?
not but he's not a fighter or anything, despite how well strong he looks. He probably he could fight someone, and honestly, if one punch from that mechanical hand of his probably could take someone out handily. But he doesn't enjoy fighting. He enjoys studying the body, and he uses his own body to help facilitate that.
Mm.
Nowadays, when he's not, co-opting government funds to fuel his passions, he makes cybernetic. What would you call like replacement arm or replacement leg for someone who's lost their leg?
I do not know the proper term, but I get what you mean.
Yeah, he. Oh, jeez. Prosthetics. He
Yeah.
prosthetics. There we go. He makes prosthetics that are so true to life that wearing them, if you, it almost feels like you have like that part again. Like you can touch with it, you can feel with it. His work is very revolutionary again, as I said, and he does ultimately do what he does for the betterment of humankind, which is why when his project was so casually just taken hold of by the military, it was a huge blow to his world.
Mm, tragic. I see. So he's like kind of a reformed mad scientist, would you say?
I wouldn't even call him mad per se. Most of his original dealing funded by the government themselves, and he's never had negative intentions for humanity.
Mm,
Um, his colleague is something I'd say I'd consider a mad scientist, but
mm.
while he fits the bill of a mad scientist, he's not particularly mad.
Ah, are they like at odds with each other?
You could say that, yes. The his partner ended up he acquiesced very handily to the notion of the government taking their materials. In fact, he was very eager for it, and that completely drove a wedge between the two of them. So they no longer speak, unfortunately.
And, what does this other colleague think of his daughter? This perfect, um, I guess, android? Is it that the proper term?
He Android, I believe, is the proper term. Yes, he doesn't know about her yet, but I'm assuming upon finding out, he would want to he would want to use her for his own agenda, which is something that naturally Doctor Who would vehemently be against. He's
Mm-hmm.
he's a very gloomy person. He can put on a mask and act like a genial gentleman to the masses, but you know him on a personal basis as he is now. He's just kind of gloomy and distracted. But with his daughter, she might be a robot, but he feels as strongly to her as he would, a human child, because in his mind, she effectively is a human child, or at least, is the next best thing.
Mm-hmm. So he doesn't fight. He's a lover, not a fighter. It's
And
just
he has a hard time loving.
he has a hard time loving. He, I would rate him a certified bad boy. Mhm. That gets a bad boy
Thinking
stamp of
about it,
approval.
I don't think he would know how to feel about that, but he would probably he would probably agree just to save face, like, sure, okay, yes, I'm a bad boy.
Yes, yes. Oh, that makes it even hotter. You know, they have to play the gentleman, even though they're like, the fuck. You know,
Yeah.
it's even even hotter, they can maintain an air of control. That's why we love them. Um, what else? Any Blorbos you want to specially mention before we end? It's an hour already. Wow, time flies very fast.
Oh, it sure does. Gosh. Well, recently a character who's been stuck in my head. I don't know if you've ever heard of the game Xenogears. It's a PlayStation 1 game by Square Enix.
Xenogears. I've heard of
It's a
it. I
character.
want to play it.
It's a it's a very interesting game, but I've been thinking a lot about the character. His name is Sitan Azuki. You can say his name differently, but I say it's Sitan. And he's a very fascinating character. He's your second party member in the game, and right off the bat, he is very suspicious. He knows 90% of what's going on when none of the characters do.
Oh,
He is a. Ugh, well, I don't want to spoil too much, but
hmm.
he he knows the world like the back of his hand and has been on so many sides that it's honestly ridiculous. But he puts that all this complexity under the mask of being, just a goofy doctor, mechanic, tinkerer who lives up on a mountain with his wife and daughter.
I was a wife guy. Okay.
He is a wife guy. He,
Okay.
without spoiling too much, he was the leader of a military force, not the leader, but like a general military force, like the head general commander. And his wife was the opposing commander, and
Oh.
he just completely bailed on his army to wed her. So he's
Oh my
extreme wife
god.
guy.
Oh, we might have to play. We might have to play. I mean, I might have to play.
It's a very interesting game. He is one of the strongest characters in the game as well. Amusing, despite being the second character you get. He only gets stronger later on, but he's a
Wife
very
guys no.
he's a wife guy. He's a bastard. He's a funny man. He's a whole lot of things all wrapped into one, and I quite like him.
Oh, can we? Can you share if like does he die in the game? Like, I kind of
Oh, he
want to
doesn't.
play it. He does. Oh, thank
He do-
God.
he
Oh,
he doesn't die. Don't worry.
okay. Okay. Does his wife die?
I don't think she does. So don't worry
Okay.
about that.
Oh, thank God. Okay. Okay. We might be playing. We might be playing. Yeah, your special mention, Blorbo, was a wife guy. I appreciate it.
I'd highly recommend
Okay.
Xenogears in general, but it's quite the unusual RPG to say the
I think
least.
it's
So
unusual.
maybe it's not
It,
for everyone.
is it like so it's not as good as like BT like Final Fantasy 7 or something?
I I wouldn't say that. It's actually it was originally penned to be Final Fantasy VII before
Oh,
they decided no, this is a bit too dark for Final Fantasy.
it's dark, huh? Okay.
It's very dark. If you like it's very philosophical. If you like a lot of Young's work, then that's it's the game for you because it's very
Dang.
heavily.
Dang,
But
I'm playing it for the wife guy. Philosophy? For me? Like, I'm here for the wife guy.
there's another wife
Mm.
guy in there too. So you will have a good handful of wife guys. Be
Oh, abundance of wife guys. Oh, we love a good wife guy. Okay. I will be diving into this rabbit hole, or maybe it's like a PlayStation like emulator could use.
yeah, there are ways to I could hook you up with some ways.
Oh, you're exposing yourself to piracy. Sorry.
Oh boy, better cut this part out.
Mm.
Don't want
Mm-hmm.
Sony to get on our butt.
Oh, there's a police car coming to get us for privacy.
Sony's right at our door is knocking.
Shit. Okay, I think that is our cue to end this episode. Thank you so much for joining me on this podcast. Is there any words you'd like to say to our listeners? Maybe recommend Xenogears and make them stop making K-pop idols their face claims.
Sure. If you enjoy, old PlayStation 1, Square Enix, like in Square role playing games, give Xenogears a try. It can be it's a little bit controversial, but I think it's an experience of a game that you should at least give a try.
Okay, I will give it a try when I have time after work. Okay, yeah, I think that's it. Say bye to the audience, bestie.
Bye to the audience.
Bye to the audience.